Welcome to the Real Money Coach. I am your host, Tony Jackson. Most of you know me as the Real Money Coach. Listen, I am so glad that it is Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which means it's time for us to share some information with all of you. Now, tell me where you are watching from. Let's get it in the comments area. Listen, we had a phenomenal show last week. You're gonna really enjoy tonight's show as well. I'm telling you, you're gonna learn some things about precious metal investing. I don't know if you saw the social media post. I don't know if you saw that, but I talked about, do you want to learn about investing in precious metals? Listen, we got an expert that's going to come on tonight. Brad Hudson, the first to say it in the chat box. Brad, my man, glad to have you watching tonight. Please tell your lovely wife, Melissa, we said hello. Listen, I'm so excited about tonight. I'm excited about the show. I'm excited about a lot of things that's going on. Listen, the Real Money Coach is going, I almost want to say we're going through a revamp, but it's like God is just taking us to another level. As many of you know, I think I announced last week that the Real Money Coach is going to be on iHeartRadio, 5 p.m. on Friday, Eastern Standard Time, every 5 p.m. live, the Real Money Coach. And listen, we're really talking about doing something just tremendous by bringing both the Facebook community, the YouTube, what we're recording here, and the iHeartRadio show in conjunction with each other. So a lot of great, exciting announcements to be that we're going to do later. Listen, Evelyn, thank you for being here. Evelyn from Charlotte, North Carolina. Dr. Benita Harris from Charlotte, North Carolina. Listen, Charlotte is in the house. Huntersville is in the house. Ruth Bell is in the house, says hello to my friends, Tony Jackson, Michelle Mitchell. Ruth Bell is in the house, as she is every single week. We love it. Listen, we got Greenville, South Carolina. That might be Adele. I don't know. It probably is. It could be Adele. Ryan, awesome. Thank you for being here from Greenville, South Carolina. Listen, people coming in from all over. I just want to announce some of y'all, right? Kimberly is here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Wow, lots of great people, lots of great information. I am excited to bring on my co-host. You all know her, and she's been here now for 6 months, right? Alice Martin, good to have you here as well. And let's bring on Mrs. Michelle Mitchell. Michelle,
good evening, Tony. Doing good.
So we were just on in the back room, and my goddaughter Danielle, your daughter's there, all bundled up, and I'm like, man, y'all act like it's cold in Michigan. You know what's going on?
It's cold today, man.
It's cold today, a little cold and rainy and wet.
Yes.
And all that stuff. Put that chill on you, right?
A little chill.
I remember
it feels like fall.
Feel like fall. Like this is one of those days when we love to have the fire going. You know, when we were back in Jackson, this is a great day to have a fire and all that kind of good stuff. So listen, Adele says hello, Michelle. And so
hello.
Wow,
Adele.
Michelle, so what's anything going new? What's happening with your business? I'm seeing the social media. I saw you on Instagram and all this good stuff. So what's going on?
Me on Instagram. Well, I what did I do today? It was a reel about goal setting today, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I was doing my own, goals at the beginning of October. So I recorded it. People like that stuff for whatever reason. But yes, I do. Yeah, I do reflect on where I want to go. So,
well, it's interesting. Right before our show, I do a thing with this Generational Wealth Alliance with Dr. George Frazier, and today I talked about goals. What I saw you talk about, I thought it was like journaling or something like that. But I talked about goals, talked about SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so And I know you're familiar with SMART goals.
Oh, absolutely.
And so let's share SMART goals with the folks before our guests come on. What are SMART
Sure.
goals?
Sure. A goal, when you set a goal, you want to be specific about what that goal is. Um, so that you know exactly what you're going after. Then the M in SMART is measurable. So you want to be
Right.
able to measure like your progress or measure, when are you successful with that goal. The goal should be attainable so you can reach it. Yes, I have a goal of hitting $1 million, but there's steps along the way to get to the million, right? So I have attainable goals, but I also have my stretch goal. Um, and then what's the time frame you want? Oh, I'm sorry. The R is
I'm like,
relevant,
yeah,
and then
relevant,
timely. Hmm.
timely.
Yeah. When do you want the goal to be accomplished? So setting a timeline for yourself so you know how long it's going to take you to get there, right? So.
Well, and it's so important what you just went, especially I think as we approach, Q4,
Hmm.
we're in fourth quarter, people are starting to think about their goals for next year and
Hmm.
that type of thing. So, being specific and making them
Hmm.
measurable, attainable,
Hmm.
relevant, and then
Hmm.
have a timetable.
Yep.
And so, one of the things that I talked about earlier today is making sure that those goals are also that you write them down.
Yes.
Just not having goals. It's like, oh yeah, this is my
Oh
goal in my
yeah.
head, but
Hmm.
have it written down. Have it
Hmm.
written down, and so that you know what they are. And
Yeah.
like you said, having that time frame for it. And we're talking about goals, not just financial goals, but these could be
Hmm.
goals as far as um,
These
your
are your life
financial
goals.
goals,
Yeah.
your it could be weight loss, life goals,
Yeah.
it could be your study,
Mhm.
how much, if you're gonna, because a lot of people say, in church, I'm thinking church, right? Then people's
Mhm.
like, well, I'm gonna read my Bible more.
Right.
Okay, all right.
When.
When, right?
Right.
And then when is how much more?
How much
So
more?
where's
Right.
the measurable, right?
Yeah.
And then is it attainable? You
Mhm.
can't say, well, I'm gonna read the New Testament next week.
Right.
That's probably not gonna happen, right?
Right.
So it's got to be attainable, and
Mhm.
then it's got to be relevant to
Yeah.
your life
Mhm.
and all those type of things. And then what
Yeah.
is the timetable? And so I think that's really good to remind people of that, because sometimes, we in our going and
Mhm.
in our interaction, just life, and we
Mhm.
get busy, we forget about those types of things. So
Yeah. And you
awesome.
must have saw my other post this week too, because I talked about 3 reasons why you don't reach your goals.
All right, so talk to
Yeah.
us. What are the 3 reasons?
Yeah. You didn't write it down. It's just in your head. Like, it's a wish because
It's a
you
wish.
forget. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you're not really clear about what the goal is. And then
good.
it's not connected to your vision of what you want for
Mm,
your life. So if it's
yeah,
not connected to anything, it's gonna be hard for you to reach that goal. Yeah.
that's good. That's real
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
I talked about turning your dreams into goals and your goals into plans.
Mhm.
And I love what you're saying there in terms of, those are 3 things
Mhm.
that can get in the way of your goal.
Yeah.
And, we always talk about the Harvard study. I think it was the class of 1950 or 1952. Harvard study said that, only 3% of that graduating class had their goals
Mhm.
written down
Yeah.
and review them on a daily basis. I think
Mhm.
it was 3 times a day.
Mhm.
But when they went back for their 50-year reunion, the 3% that had their goals written down had
Mhm.
accumulated more wealth than the other
Yeah.
97% combined.
Right.
And it's just the power of goals,
Yeah.
power of writing those things down. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I have a whole process. So I review at the beginning of the month and then each week, like whatever goal I'm working on, I'm breaking it down each week, right? So I was just reviewing what I had done.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you're just a model citizen. You're just a model.
Well, not always, but I try. I have some
Good.
big goals, so,
Well, and if you got big goals, it's
Mhm.
more important, even more important that you kind of do some of those things. So
Yeah.
I encourage everybody who's listening tonight to write down your goals, to write them
Yeah.
down,
Top 3.
the SMART goals,
Mhm.
write them down, and let's go after it. So
Yeah.
and then come back and let us know. Send us an email at info at
Mhm.
the Real Money Coach. Let us know how your goals are going and how those things are going.
Mhm.
So, Michelle, I'm pretty stoked though about the iHeartRadio show that starts
Oh, I know you are.
tomorrow. Man, but as you can imagine, here's the
Mhm.
thing. So I went to the studio, we
Mhm.
recorded the show, and I get a text tonight. They can't find the recording. I'm like, come on.
No
You
way!
got to be kidding me. So, they're looking for the recording. They're like, can you come back to the studio? Can but so we'll see what happens. But listen, everyone, just remember iHeartRadio, 5 p.m. on Fridays. I'm gonna announce that a couple times today. You're gonna get an email. You're gonna get. I'm really asking the Real Money Coach family to show up. We're looking for sponsors, all of that. This is a
Right.
national show. It will be. It can be viewed and watched through all 4 time zones, from West Coast to East Coast. And we want to take this information that a lot of you've been getting here on Thursday nights, and we're going to put it on the radio, and then we're going to enhance that and make the 2 experiences work together. And so
Awesome.
really excited about that.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah. So some good stuff coming up. Anything, you got any workshops, anything coming up or for 4th quarter?
I I don't think I have one. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
So
It's not this month.
it's not this month.
It's not
So
this.
I think we have one coming on November 9th, a retirement workshop. Our guest, I'm going to be down at one of his workshops in Dallas next weekend. And I think on the 28th or something like that, I'm going to be on a panel for the Association of Black Estate Planners Professionals,
Oh,
something like that. So I'm going
look
to be on
at
their little
you.
panel. So we're going to be sharing this information,
Yeah.
y'all. We got to get it out. So
Yeah.
Michelle, have you ever wanted to or thought about investing in precious metals?
Okay, so when I was in my master's program, one of my professors was very adamant about us learning about investing in precious metals. So it's always been, I don't know how to do it. So
Well,
I know what it is,
right.
but yeah,
We're gonna learn something about
yeah,
it tonight.
I'm
And
excited.
I was watching something. Someone sent it to me. I think it was Jerome Davis from the Black Couples Getaway, where
Mhm,
this guy said, he's like, he was a rap artist, and he was
mhm,
talking about it was really good
mhm.
video, and he talked about that if a label ever comes out and says, okay, when you sign our label for your music, the first thing we're going to do is put you through financial education class.
Awesome.
He said that's what we need a label to do.
Yeah.
And he said we need to get people to understand that when we talk about investing in gold, we ain't talking about gold chains, right? We're not talking about
Right.
diamond
Right.
rings. We're not talking
Yeah.
about that stuff. We're talking about real precious metals, gold and silver, and those type of things. So
Right.
our guest tonight is I've been in a couple workshops with him. I learned a whole lot in a very
Mhm.
short time period. And so we thought it would just be awesome for him to come onto our show tonight and just, share that 30,000-foot view of
Mhm.
what it means to be a gold investor or silver or precious metal investor. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about David. David is the controlling member of Prosperity Mint Coins and Memorabilia. It's a full-service precious metals company, which is headquartered in Dallas, Texas. David has been a full-service precious metal provider for 12 years and has been attached to the industry for more than 25 years. Prosperity Mint has a distinctly different approach to serving precious metals sector. They believe that it's critically important to educate their clients, which most in the field escape, right? Most don't do that, but they believe in educating. Prosperity Ment's core cultural values are both spiritual and scientifically proven. Wealth is never determined by the cash one holds, but by the asset one controls. I like that. Let me read that again. Wealth is never determined by the cash that you hold, but by the assets you control. Ah, I like that. We're going to unpack that, right?
Yeah.
We're going to unpack that. So without any further ado, let's bring on to the stage with us Mr. David Wren of Prosperity Ment. David, how you doing?
Hello.
Tony, Michelle, good evening. I was sitting backstage sweating, trying to get this together and everything else. You guys held it down for me. And finally, with your IT help, I got it done. So thank you.
Man, it's good. It's good to have you with us.
Yes.
So David, I mean, I've gotten to know you. For those of you who may not know, there's a group called Roberts. Right? Roberts in the Innovation Group, and it's head by Dr. Michael Roberts, a Black billionaire. And so David and I are in that mastermind every Thursday morning. And so I've gotten to know David through there, and we've gone through a couple things. But David, before we get into the nuts and bolts and the coins and all that stuff, right? Tell us a little bit about you and kind of your journey and how you got to where you are now.
Wow, great. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be within my tribe, especially in today's world, because we have surely forgotten our birthright, and we have surrendered our prosperity for what I call as fool's gold. And it is my mission I had a spiritual calling when I was about 13 years old, and I answered with, "Here I am." And that was my life's journey to bring back to our overall tribe and to the general human population God's promise that never fails. And it all starts in God's money. And so when you think of money, you should really think of, if the great creator God Almighty made it, it's a form of money. If man created, it's a currency. And currency can never do what money can do, because money will never, ever fail you. So my journey started at a very young age. I remember I was going into a convenience store where I grew up in New Jersey, in Hackensack, and I grew up in the projects. And we had a young lady that was our matriarch. She just led us all, and her name was Latina. And Latina was coming out of a store, and I was going into a store, a convenience store. And Latina Briggs said to me, she said, "David, do you know that silver is more valuable than gold?" And that was my spiritual calling. And ever since then, I've been on this journey to disclose, to show, to prove, and to re-engage that truth. And I started then, and from there, I was only like 5 miles from New York City. I used to go over to Wall Street, and I started to ask some brokers about how do you get into the precious metals. And one broker took interest in me that was actually a commodities trader. And he started to teach me some things before he made the great transformation. So that really started my journey. And ever since then, I've been on this journey to actually reconnect myself, my family, and those that I've yet not named, and generations that will go forward, to get back to our birthright. And our birthright is to be prosperous and wealthy, and to be able to leave a true inheritance that our overall generations can seed forward, to have a bountiful harvest every season without famine. And the only way that you can do that is with God's money.
Wow, that's pretty deep. And on a light note, man, when you were saying that and you were going over to Wall Street, and they were teaching about. I went to that movie, right? I reference that movie sometimes. Trading Places.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trading Places, and
Mortimer.
they took Eddie Murphy and they traded him. We're gonna make him a commodities dealer, and they sat him down in the conference room, and they said, "This is a commodity. This is stock. This is this. This is gold. This is silver." And they talking. These are commodities, right? And they're kind of trading him. And then the line that I always talk about is they said, well, tell him the good part. And the good part was in that environment, they said, whether our client makes money or not, we still get paid.
Yes.
And that's that was, and then Eddie Murphy looked up and said, you guys seem like a bunch of bookies, right? But the thing about it is that was a deep statement.
Yes, it was.
It was a very deep statement. And that's what happens a lot of times in the stock market. And imagine, David, and you can correct me or tell me, that may even happen in the commodities, precious metal area as well.
Oh, definitely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Tony. As you always find the jewels that are meant for all to pick up. And you really did drop a jewel there. That is very true. And what I teach our clients is that one of the most important things is that we have to remember that we've been schooled to know the price of everything while knowing the value of nothing.
Yeah.
And this is how we become disenfranchised. And my overall quest is to break that overall so that you can have a form of financial education instead of some schooling. Because if you think about it, if you want to domesticate your dog or domesticate your cat or domesticate your animal, you have to send them to obedience school. See, the great creator never had a school for us. What we had was an education of life experiences that actually showed you how to traverse the adverse times to be able to have some sustainability so that you will come out on top. And so when you talk about that scene in Trading Places, the way I put it today, especially with my clients, is this, and you've been in one of my classes. I don't care if the price of the precious metals go down or they go up. I win either way. I don't gamble. I'm not a gambler. I'm a collector. I never try to go again into the overall market, which is nothing more than corporate gambling, thinking that you're going to beat them at their overall game. You got to remember something. They created the rules. And if you play by the rules, they will rule.
The rules are slanted for them to win. I do want to back up because I think that's important. And thank you so much, Alice Martin, because, sometimes we can get and we use jargon in terms that people don't. Alice, explain what is a commodity? How would you explain a commodity? What is a commodity? Well,
commodities can for me, and I'm different than anyone else because I'm a precious metals dealer. And how I try to explain this is very important and very easy. And I said it earlier. A commodity can be a form of money, or it can not be a form of money. Okay. The most important thing about a commodity is this. You have to look at it. If the great creator made it, it's an asset to sustain life. It's a form of money. You've heard the old saying that money doesn't grow on trees. Well, that is so wrong and so and so unspiritual because of this. Money does grow on trees, but when we think of money growing on trees, the first thing we think about is a tree with leaves of cash. But really, money does grow on trees because you have a tree that has an apple, a pear, or orange. Can that sustain your life?
Yes.
Yes, it can.
The fruit.
That is a form of money. Money always sustains your existence in your life. And so the same thing with a commodity. If it's something that can sustain your life because of its physical, innate, intrinsic value, it's a commodity that really is a form of money. Now, currency is something that man makes to control a population from having assets and having wealth.
So
currency.
So David, in that, then when we generally, and sometimes we do this, right? When we generally use the term commodity and how we see it being used, it's usually just something of value that can be traded for something else of value. Right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
But the thing about it is, so that's how we generally use the word commodity, is that it's something that can be traded for something else's value. So if you have cattle could be a commodity that you can sell and in exchange for money or barter. If you maybe you change your cattle for swine, I don't know, but whatever it happens to be. But in what I like about what you're saying is about it sustaining life. Because one of the things, and that I think is probably, we'll get to it sooner or later, we might be in it now, is talking about the US dollar and the value of the US dollar.
Yes.
And I think I've mentioned maybe this concept of quantitative easement, where they just kind of print money to put into the economy, but it has no backing for it.
Yes.
So where have we evolved as a country in terms of what the dollar used to have backing it versus what is backing the dollar today?
Wow, great question. And Tony, it's the commodity portion of it, and that's very important for it to answer your question. The commodity portion of it is that many times that we are taught to engage in this financial circus, that we are to trade a commodity for currency. One thing that I never do, I always use currency to acquire money. I never exchange money for currency. I only exchange money for another form of money, because now you're really diversifying yourself. I'll give you an example. Let's say, how can you be diversified if you have stocks, bonds, a mortgage, a 401k plan, right? And a saving, and your cash savings. Everything that you're not diversified, because you're not diversified because they are all still dollar denominated. So let's say I have land, I have cattle, I have precious metals, I have water on my land, I have trees on my land. Now you have real diversification, so that if anything ever happens, you have an asset that you can draw from your wealth to not to diminish, but to grow your wealth even further. So that's very important in that commodities exchange. I never exchange money for currency. I always use currency to acquire money. I always exchange money for other forms of money. Now you're increasing your overall wealth.
Wow. I mean, that's really deep.
Yeah.
And but it makes sense, because you're talking about value. And I don't know why this is on my mind, but I think one of the biggest myths is diamonds, right? Because we hear diamonds is a girl's best friend, but diamonds don't hold any value. I mean, you buy a diamond, it's like a car, right? So if I buy a car and I drive that car around the block and I take it back to the dealership, I'm not getting the same value for that car.
Right.
Same thing with a diamond. I can buy a diamond, and then I can come back a week later and try to sell that diamond back. I'm not going to get what I paid for it. And my point is that with some of the things we're talking about here, or what you're talking about, is things that hold their value.
Because they have intrinsic importance and they have an intrinsic value. That's the key. Now, diamonds, they do have an intrinsic value. Let's say, I'm gonna use diamonds and silver as an example. You never want to use a commodity, an asset, or a form of money outside of its realm. Okay, because then it's not going to perform what the great creator and what God Almighty intended it to perform. Now, if I want to dig deep into the ground to recover gold, guess what I might want to use? I might want to use diamonds for cutting. That's where the value of diamonds would lie. Let's say I want to with silver. Let's say I have an illness and I want to kill a virus, a bacteria, or a pathogen. Well, then I want to use silver.
Yeah.
That's why silver is more valuable than all of the precious metals combined, because it's the only one that can directly save your life. So you always want to look at what was the intended nature of the great creator of that overall or that overall asset, or what that overall underlying form of money. And right away, if you continue to use it for what it was designed to use for, now everything is fine. It's great. It's just like Lucifer. Lucifer was designed to bring praise, but he changed it. And that's when the evil came in. So you always wanted to use in the form that it is created in a benevolent way.
You know, it's interesting. I used to say that to my kids all the time. Like, use things for its intended purpose. Use it for its intended purpose. A spoon was not meant to hit your brother or sister upside the head. Use it for its intended purpose, right? Use things for its intended purpose, and that's really, really good. Now, you said something though,
especially a silver spoon. Go ahead.
Right? And what it is, are you born with a silver spoon in your mouth, right? That's the old saying or whatever. You mentioned that silver was more, and it may catch people by surprise. You said silver is more precious than gold, or more valuable than gold. Unpack that a little bit more for, because I think most people would think the opposite. They think, well,
Tony, I missed that because we froze out. Could you go back when you said something about a silver spoon? Because then it froze for me.
I was just saying, the old thing, the saying about somebody born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But what I really wanted to get to was where you said that silver was more valuable, and I think that's the term you use, valuable, than gold. And I think that may take some people by surprise.
Sure.
Because I think generally we think, well, gold is the most precious metal out there, but that's not true. So can you unpack that a little bit?
Yes. And the reason why that people would think that, because I talked about that earlier, about the schooling. We've been schooled to be price sensitive and unaware of value. So because we think that gold has a higher price, so we think that it has more value than silver. But it's actually a very cunning way to keep people from getting an underlying asset that has the most important intrinsic value, pretty much of many of them, is by putting a price on it so low that they'll walk right by it. And I love that they walk right by it, because I always pick it up. I will say this: a key to a profit is not where you sell, is where you enter the market. Profitability is always derived at entry, not at exit. So if the market is asking for an asset and putting a price that is not in line with its value, you should run to it, because the market won't be able to suppress that for long. So why silver is more valuable. We talked about born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Well, back in the day, our great grandparents and our grandparents had silver spoons. And the reason why they had those silver spoons, it wasn't because they were flossing, trying to make a statement, a financial statement. Well, it really intended because of this. Silver will not pass communicable diseases. So with the babies, they wanted to have the babies eating because they had communicable diseases that were pretty severe back in the day. So what would prevent the baby from getting that communicable disease from salmonella to all of the other things, is that a silver spoon, because immediately silver will kill the bacteria, the virus, and the pathogens that are within the food. So it's edible safely, so that it can be consumed safely. So that's why silver is more valuable than all of the precious metals. And I'll tell you, this will make it clear. And you all know, you look at the Judeo-Christian Bible. You remember when Jesus was tempted 40 days in the wilderness, came out in the great Satan said, if you will kneel to me, I will give you the world. Didn't lie to Jesus. What was Jesus' response? Is that man can't live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds from the Father's mouth. Bread is not a natural form of food. So bread, and what is the slang that we use for cash? Bread.
Bread.
That's the point. He said that proceeds from everything from the Father's mouth. What was the first thing that the great creator said? Let there be light. So let me translate that to the scientific truth. Let there be silver. No silver, no light. When you look at the sun, how important is the sun to us? It's quintessential to our existence.
Right.
So 1 ounce of silver, I have a silver ring here. I'm holding the most direct representation of the SUN on this planet. This is the sun. The sun is the star is able to give off the thermal heat energy that it gives off of because it has more silver in it than anything else. Because the more silver it has, the larger the star is. So once again, it's not gold, but silver. So once again, you would say, how important is the sun to us? It's quintessential to our existence. That's the value of silver.
Wow.
So David, here, so we're understanding this. We're understanding. We're starting to get a picture of it, right?
Yes.
The web, the fog is starting to clear, right? So we're understanding silver is important. It's more valuable than any of the other precious metals. So if someone wanted to become a investor, or you said you're a collector, right? What should they do? What should be the steps? What should they look for? Are there some traps to avoid, so to speak?
Sure.
Yeah, speak to that.
Sure, they definitely are. The traps are here. You have to educate yourself. I want everyone to think about, let's say, and I'm not knocking any financial advisors or any brokerage houses, but I want you to think about this. If you have, let's say you have a stock or a bond, or you have equities, and you have a hedge fund that's in charge of that. Do you know that hedge fund manager? Do you know that person's name? No.
Nope.
Do you know that person's character? No. Do you know their drinking habits, their drug habits? No, you don't. You know their criminal history? No, you don't. Do you know anything about that person? No, you don't. So you want to give your life savings to someone that you don't know? Who's the person that you do know? You know you. So if you educate yourself, and then see, with me and my clients, I have a personal relationship with my clients. This is why we don't service customers anymore, because I don't have room for customers. I'm too busy working with my clients personally. You have personal relationships with everyone that works with you. There's a difference, okay? When you start to look at people that have no vested interest in you, believe me, they do. The vested interest of you is when they go to the table of negotiation, and they sit down at the table of negotiation. You're the meal that they're carving among themselves. So it's very important that you educate yourself in everything that you do, especially the precious metals, because the history of it goes back far beyond the recorded history, and the importance of it is scientifically proven and spiritually intact. Haggai 1:6, it says, the Lord says that the silver and gold is mine. Said silver first, then gold. So I would say that you really do have to educate yourself. Then, most importantly, what you have to do is learn how to acquire the precious metals correctly, because there's a wrong way to do it and a right way to do it. I actually teach our clients, because you said investing. You can't invest until you first save. One of the most important things in becoming wealthy is you have to first become a prodigious saver. If you're not a prodigious saver, you'll never become wealthy. You'll be rich. And when you're rich, you're one mistake away from going broke. You're one mistake away from going. When you're wealthy, you can't give it away, nor can you lose it. So one of the first things that you have to do is, one, you have to become a prodigious saver. Start saving in the precious metals, then learn how to use your principal to gain you interest or free silver and gold that you don't have to pay for. And that's what we teach our clients.
So David, you know, I've heard people say, you know, I own gold, I own silver, or, you know, sometimes it's other metals. But what they really have is they have a certificate.
Yes.
I don't even know if it's considered a deed. So how does that work? I mean,
yes. Well, there's paper contracts, and I will tell you, in my opinion, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give financial advice, but what I do is this. I'll tell you what I do. I will never go into the commodities market to buy a piece of paper of a commodity that I can put in my hand and have all of its intrinsic value under my control. Because when you do that, now you own a receipt and you don't control the metals. Remember when we first talked about Prosperity Mint, I said I'm the controller. I control everything. I don't own anything because ownership is liability. Control is the steps to prosperity. So it's really important with paper contracts. I would not advise anyone to engage in paper contracts unless you have to buy millions and millions of dollars of physical metals, because you use those metals in industry. You're a precious metals dealer. You're a defense contractor. You're one of the major defense builders, because they have to have the precious metals, and what they do is they hedge themselves from the precious metals going down. Paper contracts, in my opinion, should only be done there. But the thing about the precious metals, even gold, you can't own gold. You can't own silver. You either have control of it or you don't. If you don't have it in your physical possession, you don't have silver. You can't take, if you can't take your silver, put it in milk and it kill anything that's in the milk bacteria wise. If you put your paper contract inside of that milk, you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. But if you take 1 ounce of silver and you drop it inside of that milk, it's going to kill the bacteria that's in that overall milk. So it's the physical control that's so important. I wouldn't advise anyone to buy paper contracts at this level, at this time, because you're not really getting any real metals. Why would you do that when you can actually buy the physical commodity while it's still available? Because it won't be.
You actually want it. You want it physically in your hand. So just because you have a certificate or a deed or something like that doesn't really mean that you own it. And I think one time in one of your classes you were talking about, like, if you have a gold bar, if there's a gold bar and it has a serial number on it, and so I have a certificate that I own this gold bar with this serial number on it. Well, if they melt that gold, that serial number is gone. There's no proof that it was ever mined.
That's right. And not only that, the thing about it is that they're controlling the physical commodity, the physical asset. So what they can do, how do you know how many pieces of paper that they printed with that same serial number and sold it to other people? Because all they have to do is, as long as they have ink and as long as they have a computer to write up the contract and send it out, guess what? If you have 1 ounce of silver and 1,000 people have that same registered number or that same serial number, how are you going to take 1 ounce of silver and divide it 1,000 times? You can't. It will no longer be 1 ounce of silver. So the only one that really has money is the overall holder of the physical commodity. This is why possession is 9/10 of the law.
Wow. So everybody, if you're going to really be an investor in precious metal, you have to have control of the physical metal.
Yes. Yes. Else, what you're doing is you're buying the physical metals for somebody else, and you'll never see it. And when you need it the most, you will never see it. You will never see it.
So I think I heard of like there's where people buy gold and it's stored somewhere or
In depositories.
Depositories.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
So how does depositories work?
Well, depositories are, what they will do is that you can buy the physical and you allow them to hold it for you in safekeepings. Texas was the first state to have a state depository. There are depositories, in Zurich and different places around the world. And I will tell you this, I don't need anybody to hold my money. I'll do just fine holding my own money. Because you have to remember something. You have to remember something. Those depositories are built so no one can get in.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't want you in, you'll never get in. And if you do get in, and if all they have to do is melt the overall contents of it and change the form of it, where is your what legal recourse will you have? None whatsoever. So I'm not a proponent of depositories. I'm a proponent of this. What you should do is you should acquire it. You should learn how to have it in safe keepings. And that really comes from that educational part. And I will ask you this. The only people that should know where your overall holdings of your money are is your heirs. Or your heirs. It's a security situation. Only your heirs should know where that is. And it should be put in a place that even if they try to take it, it can't be taken without your overall releasing of it. So there are different security mechanisms. You should have your own depository. You should definitely have your own depository once you get to a certain level.
So David, this was, so to me, the whole precious metal thing is so deep, right? and probably there's a lot of people that are watching tonight. They're just like, wow, that was deep. For many of us, it may have went over our head. For some of us, we're like, okay, so how do I learn more? So that's where I want to get to now is if someone's out there and they're watching and they're interested in investing in gold or silver, and there's other metals too, maybe you can name a few of those. Yeah. How does one educate themselves in knowing what to buy and how? Because we know, I believe that your group is kind of a closed type of thing at this point. So there may be other people that said, I want to buy some. How do they go about educating themselves and then getting involved in this market?
Well, yes, we service our clients, and the only way that someone can actually become a client is because Tony is a client, and Tony can, refer someone else to help them, and we'll be more than happy to do that. That's the only way that you actually can become a client, because there is an educational process before you start, because I will teach you what I do so you won't need me to do it. And so that's very important. And so for someone that wants to acquire the precious metals, I will say you have to really be careful of the traps that are out there, because if you're going to engage in acquiring precious metals, the first thing that you're going to have to do is have to break your addiction. Have to break your addiction. Did I lose you?
No, we still there. Okay. You just on the screen by yourself. We all here.
You first really have to break your addiction to cash, because if you don't break that addiction to cash, the only thing that you're going to be doing is that you're going to be acquiring precious metals for me and my clients, and you're going to give it to us and you won't even know it. I would never take it from anyone. You're going to give it to me. So there is a real changing of our mentality. We have to reconnect to the ecosystem, and we have to really reconnect to the promise of God to us, because you can't have it both ways. You should use, and I'm not saying you shouldn't use cash. You should use cash for what it was intended to be used for. That's maintaining your quality of life and in servicing, maintaining your quality of life and servicing your debt. Okay. And it's really, that's the thing that you should be using cash for. I never save in cash, because why would I save in an instrument that's losing purchasing power? Since 1913, when the current dollar under the Bretton Woods and the Banking Act of 1913, the dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power. All forms of currency throughout human history have gone to zero. The US dollar is no exception. It's going to zero. It's already lost 96% of it. So there are some fundamental things that you really have to engage yourself into before you can even be an investor. Because if you don't understand those things, you can buy all the gold and all the silver in the world. What you're going to be doing is that you're going to be giving it to people that truly understand the value of it and understand how this thing really works, and you're going to be surrendering it to them. You're buying it for them. So I would say definitely get with Tony. Tony will connect you with us, and then we can actually help you in that process.
Well, David, I mean, like I said, every time I learn a lot, and sitting down for an hour, and I love what Antonio said. So that was deep, great information. Education is power, and that's really what we aim to do on the Real Money Coaches, bring education. And I know tonight was deep, right? And tonight was real deep, but it's still, we got to know these things, and we got to start to learn what others have known and have been doing for years and decades upon decades, centuries, that we haven't known about. And I think this is one of those areas, and it's no different. It's like we got to start with some basics, some education and learning. It's the same as financial planning, right? You got to start with having the proper life insurance. You got to have that foundation in place. Right. So if you don't have that foundation in place, you need
insurance.
Right.
And insurance. You have to have insurance.
Right.
You have to have insurance.
Absolutely. And so, David, but I just want to thank you, man, for coming.
Wait, could I just, before we go, could I just end on this? Very important. Very important thing that I always teach is that our wage, you have to look at what your wage is, and that can tell you what the economy thinks of you. The wage of a king and a queen, every king and a queen is paid in silver. And the wage of a lady and a gentleman, someone that works for a king and a queen, their wage is gold. And the wage of a slave is debt. Every slave is paid in debt. Look at what you get paid in. It says right on it in dollars, the Federal Reserve notes, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's a debt instrument. That's a slave's wage. But there's a way that a slave becomes king, is that you never, ever hold that to your overall savings. You hold firm to the silver lining in the rainbow that the great creator put for us to never be destroyed again. And so what is that overall? Is God's money. Very important. Last thing, I want you to think about what I just said, that the wage of a king is silver. Case in point. What was Jesus sold out for? Silver. Because that's spiritual. You can't sell out a king on gold.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, that's that. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
That's dropped. Yes. 30 pieces of silver.
Yep.
Right. And I don't know. I'm thinking about Sounds of Blackness. Y'all remember that song?
Yes.
Silver and gold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. And I never really thought about that. The silver came first, even in that verse, right? Silver and gold. And so understanding precious metal is, I think, is great. you know, my concern is sometimes we get into things and we just really don't know.
Yes.
And that's where we want to educate people so that you don't get into those things that we don't know, and to seek the education of someone who knows. Y'all can't come to me and I'm gonna tell you how to buy silver and gold because I don't know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to seek out wise counsel and all the things that we do, you know, seek it out and then act on it. So David, I'm really excited, man, about being with you on the 31st,
Yes,
with your clients, sharing some information that we share about how to properly insure yourself, how to use the proper insurance investments, insurance products to gain wealth. But again, it's about diversifying, right? So everything can't be, you know, everything can't be paper. It can't be paper. I mean, and I think that's what's so important about land ownership is that it's physical. You know, you own land. You know, you
has intrinsic value.
Yeah,
it has
intrinsic value. Yes.
Right. So, so it's awesome, man. I know it's a whole lot more to unpack. And I think it's one of those things that you guys, I encourage you just to seek out the education about this, and then just, you know, go for it, and just make sure that you do it in the right way, right? They don't even want, like, no, I ain't buying no gold, and I don't know what I'm doing, right? Educate yourself and then get in it, and then if there is anyone out there that's interested and would like to connect with David, just email me at the info@therealmoneycoach, and we'll make sure that happens. And you'll learn even more if you sat with him for one of his classes for an hour. You'll realize how deep this thing really goes, and how trading, because one of the things he mentioned, he kind of went over, is like, you know, when you trade, you know, there's a lot of day trading that happens with stocks, and then Forex, foreign exchange trading. But the trading that takes place between silver and gold and back and forth and those type of things, there's a lot to learn there, because he said whether it goes up or down, they still make money because of, you know, knowing when to buy and what to buy and how to sell and all that kind of stuff. So, so man, great information. Thank you for taking time out to be with us.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Any parting words?
I'm looking forward to meeting you, Michelle. You as well, Tony. So I'm gonna see you next weekend. But sis, I'm looking forward to you actually engaging with us, because I firmly believe that the process of learning is never complete until you give away what you've learned. And there's so much that we need to embark on in each other.
Yes.
So if y'all see me walking down the street and I got these two big old bags, I'll be like, Tony went got his gold.
No. Right. You ain't got that silver. No, I won't let you do that. I won't let you walk down the street like that.
It's gonna be silver. It's gonna be silver.
Right.
So it's gonna be bags of silver. You got it. It's like your bag is too heavy for it.
Right.
I'm gonna be over the weight limit in the airport. It was like,
well, you know, because real money has weight.
Real
money has weight.
Yeah.
Very true.
Wow.
That's pretty deep.
Man, you deep.
Michelle, what'd you think?
Man, that was amazing. It was a history lesson. It was like
some biblical in there.
Biblical, crazy. Wow. I know. I said at the beginning, you know, one of my professors was, he was always talking to us about, you know, purchasing metals, and he always talked about silver. Always.
Yeah.
Yep. He always talked about silver.
Well, listen, it's been another great night of the Real Money Coach. I want to remind everyone once again to make sure that you join iHeartRadio tomorrow. Download the app, search for WDRB at 5 p.m. Eastern. Our topic tomorrow on the radio show is going to be GoFundMe ain't life insurance, right? GoFundMe is not life insurance. That is going to be our topic. Listen, we did a workshop on that last week. It was so much great information. We're going to have a lot of sound bites from that will be on there as well. So that will be our topic. Next week on The Real Money Coach on Thursday night, we're going to have attorney Takora Davis, and she's going to be talking about protecting your intellectual property. We're talking about your trademark, your registration, your copyright, protecting your intellectual property. So that's going to be our topic next week with attorney Takora Davis. And you guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And it's been The Real Money Coach. Have a good evening.